Today we've got a 2013 Explorer with a 3.5 liter naturally aspirated engine, and it has the dreaded water pump leaking on it. I got the pressure tester put on. My cap is rated to 16 psi. I got up to about 15 on the gauge and already started hearing dripping. So it's pouring out of everywhere. It's been a little while since I've done one of these, but if I recall, there's a weep point on the block, kind of up this direction, that indicates the water pump is leaking internally, and then it then draws the water outside. So we most definitely have a coolant leak here. It's just going to be a matter of, it's pretty much all it can be is the water pump on these. So, well, I got a bunch of stuff pulled off here. I'll show you the top side in a second, but finally can see that weep hole up there. That's where all the water's coming out at. Right in right there. So it's even hard to see now that I've got the alternator removed, well, set back, and that makes me know verified that we know we definitely have water pump leaking there, and I can resume tearing down. I'll show you what we got going on the top side here. So I've already got the valve covers off, belt tensioner off, alternator, AC, everything's set back. It's not really easy to pull the AC and the alternator out of the hole because of the way that subframe's shaped, and they don't really have to come completely out, so I'm just going to leave them where they're at. Next step will be the engine mount will come out. Next step's going to be engine mount, and I'll have to put the floor jack up underneath the engine and finish pulling this top cover out of here, or the timing cover out of it. Well, I've got the timing tensioner removed and both guides, and I'm going to start. We've got all the water pump bolts loose and should be ready to pull the water pump out. The repair procedure says that you need to pull this timing sprocket off of here, and then so you can get access to the guide. There's a bolt back here behind it. My goal is to not have to disturb that. That's just one less thing I have to do. So I've got all the water pump bolts loose, and I'm going to try to pull it out in a way. We'll find out if that's going to work or not, if I can clear around that guy. So I'll see what we can do here. I'm going to crack these bolts, finish taking these bolts out, and let the waterfall begin. Starting to drain, and I'm making a big mess, as I knew I would. So we're going to go ahead and knock this thing the rest of the way out and finish making a mess here. So it looks like I am going to be able to just sneak it just behind the that timing guide. Not the easiest, most straight way to do that, but it comes out, so that's good. A few less bolts I got to take out. So here on this design, you can see over here, that's where the channel goes to leak out externally. If there's a, I can show you on the block side too, but that's where it would leak out from, is that side channel. I've got the torque specs pulled up for the water pump. So I did the first stage, which is 89 inch-pounds, and then the second stage is 45 degrees. So we're gonna get that knocked out real quick. Well, I got my guides back in here. Still need to get the timing marks set up correctly and then install my tensioner. So I need to rotate this camshaft up a little bit to get my mark back up towards, so about 11 o'clock is where it was. And then as a result, I should be able to move some slack of the chain around to this side. So my cam here is about where it should be, but you can see my white mark where I marked the chain needs to come over about 2 teeth worth, 3 teeth worth to come over here. So my goal is going to be moving this cam, clocking it, working the chain slack around, and then we should be just about ready to put the tensioner in. And then, sorry, my bottom one, the timing mark here is supposed to be straddled between the 2 white links that I marked. So you can see here we're a couple teeth around. So again, once I move that slack up and around this guy, I should have enough slack down there, and then all the slack should end up on that towards the back of the engine bay. Well, that wasn't too terribly bad. So I've got the mark up here on my chain, is where it should be on that cam sprocket. I've got this one where it should be here, and I don't have any extra slack here in the middle. And then we go to the bottom, and my mark is lined up right where it should be on the between the 2 chains. And then if you notice, all my slack is on the towards the rear. So now I can put my tensioner in place like that and push all the tension onto the chain. Here's my timing tensioner. So what I did is I put it in the vise, and then you have to put a tool in this hole here to lift the release of the detent, so the locking ratchet bar will release inward. Once you get it pressed all the way in, you can put a Allen wrench or a small key, could be a big paper clip, something like that, to hold the ratcheting pawl in place, and that allows you to bolt it in before you release tension on it onto the chain. So we're going to get installed, and then we'll pull the pin. Okay, I've got my timing tensioner torqued down. So the last step is going to be pulling the pin out, and like I said, we've got a little bit of slack here, not much, but a little bit of slack. So I always like to double check my timing marks one last time before I pull the pin. Make sure everything's happy where it should be. I'm going to pull the pin out. Now we got tension on it. And as you see, all of our slack is going down here. So we are ready to rock. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out my special tools that are holding my camshafts in place, and I used a 27 on the front and a 1 inch on the back. They're basically the same size. I had the 1 inch that I cut in a different video of mine for a different purpose, but that was nice up against the firewall. Have a shorter wrench in here. So I'm going to remove my pliers out of here, and then we'll rotate the engine over a couple times and make sure all the timing marks still look like they lined up correctly. Rotated the engine over, didn't have any binding or tension or anything like that. So I did a couple of revolutions. Obviously my white paint is no longer where it was before, but I'm just looking at my main timing marks, so Got one there, got one there, and check the one on the bottom. But I typically would put sealant on the edge of the cover, but due to how hard this thing is to get in and out of the engine bay, I'm going to put the sealant on the block side. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll get the timing cover put in. And when you're putting sealant in, don't forget to put the sealant on a couple of circles. So I just finished up with stage 6, which is tightening bolts. Oh, I'm sorry, I just finished stage 5, and then I'll have to go back and do stage 6 and stage 7 next. But pizza showed up, so we're gonna take a little break and eat some pizza, and then we'll get the rest of that torqued down. I'm sweating my ass off. That was the last of the tightening of the timing cover. That was stage 7. The second step was stage 7. So, without further ado, it's beer time. So, now I got the timing cover on, I'm going to knock the front crank seal in real quick, and probably call it a night out here. But still need to put valve covers, intake, all that good stuff on the top, bolt my 2 accessories back on it, timing, belt tensioner, all that good stuff. But really happy with how far I got with it today, and we'll get it back together in the morning. So the top end's all back together. I just got to stick the engine cover on it. I was going to show you real quick on these cam solenoid connectors. So if you are unsure about which one came from which location, because they could actually theoretically plug into either side. I mean, this one does have a little bit longer wire on it, but if you look, you have a gray one and a black one, and if you look at the actual housing inside the connector, you have one that's gray or tan and one that's black. So that shows definitively which one goes where. So don't have to worry about marking every single last thing when you unplug it. Just remember, Ford was nice enough to color coordinate that for you. So I got it down at a vacuum here, and pump some coolant water into this thing and get ready for a first run on it, see what happens. Alright, so I'm getting ready to do the first test fire. It's probably going to make a little bit of clacking noise because it hadn't had oil in it for 3 days, and we pulled all those timing components down. Main thing, we just want to make sure we didn't hear any timing components jump. It shouldn't, but it's possible. So should hear a little bit of a clatter for about maybe 1 full second or so, and then it should quiet down pretty quick. Sounds a lot better if you connect that vacuum line. So my issues were twofold there with it not wanting to run right. One was the vacuum line back here on the back of the engine. That guy. I forgot to connect that guy in there, so that one was my fault. And then the second vacuum issue I had was also causing it not to run right, because this vacuum that runs over here to the booster was split and dry rotting. So I just went and picked up another replacement for it. I'm gonna let the engine cool off a little bit because I just got done test driving about 15 miles. And we'll get the new hose popped on, and she should be ready to go home.